All right, so what you're having a look at over here is a plant that that is quite common, that we use for a food plant. This is the wild asparagus. One of the asparaguses. I say wild here, but you know what, I really don't like using the word wild asparagus, to be honest. This is a wild place. There's nothing wild about this plant. This is exactly where it should be. I use this plant. I dig around at the base of the roots for this plant, and it has these thickened portions just underneath the stem, which provide for quite a tasty snack. But in this particular instance, this asparagus is the home and host of a variety of different insects. I literally just stopped to have a look at this plant and to admire its health. And I noticed that a lot of the branches were bare of leaves, and some of them were even stuck together. And when I came close to figure out exactly what was happening to this particular plant, I noticed it's covered, absolutely covered in caterpillars, and even has a resident crab spider. Now, look at this beautiful caterpillar there. Can you see it? Isn't that just lovely? Completely camouflaged inside this particular asparagus. Now, these caterpillars are exactly what those wasps would be looking for food for their young larvae that we were showing you, the wasps that we were showing you a little bit earlier. And the spider has its home in this little silk cocoon. The spider itself is living inside there. Going to be quite difficult to see, but suffice it to say that there's a spider that's busy living inside a silk cocoon here. Now, what's quite interesting for me is the fact that the spider is not eating the caterpillars that are inside this plant, and I'm not too sure why. It's another riddle for me at the moment, is why are these caterpillars not the food of the spider that's sharing this particular plant with? There's much else going on here. There's beetles, many different types of beetles. Have a look here. There's a beetle of some description. So there's that beetle. There is smaller caterpillars. Let me show you one here. Which I think is the same species as that large one that we're busy having a look at, just a bit younger in its development. There is these white bugs that are all over the spider. Let me see if I can show you the spider in her retreat. So underneath this branch, there you can see inside there, at the point of my finger. Inside there. You see that? You can see her in her silken retreat. I'm not going to pull the branches apart and hurt her web. She's obviously taken some time. There might be eggs this time of the year. There might be eggs in there. Alright. Just an interesting plant. It's amazing once you get down and stick your face into the grass here at the moment, what you start seeing. There was no indication that there was any sort of life on this particular plant, and it's just absolutely covered in a bunch of things. It is very, very nice. Alright, we have also gotten a few answers back on what you thought the relationship was between the blue waxbill and the wasps, and you'll say it's commensalism. Well, a lot of you have said where it's commensalism. Excuse me, I'm just being attacked by flies. So that is where both parties benefit. The blue waxbill benefits from the protection of the wasps. Equally so, the wasps benefit from the protection and the activity of the blue waxbill. That's what you say. Commensalism as the type of symbiosis over there. Well done. All right, we're going to carry on. There's a series of pans that we're getting to over here now, and I'm hoping that at that pan we're going to be able to see some sign of Karula and her cubs. That's our mission for today. We're going to carry on with that mission, and we're going to send you over to one of the others and catch up with you in a little bit.
Well, we've found the baboons that James heard from the tent a bit earlier. And they were feeding off some marulas. They're now moving off, spreading out into their feeding patterns. Oh, there's a cowboy behind. There we go, just behind. Where'd he go? So they've stopped a little to the right. There's that small tree. In between those two trees, there we go. Oh no, he's climbing down. Yeah, the cowboy's got off, going the other way. These are Chakma baboons. They have quite a healthy... Oh, there we go, back on top. Itchy. Now, of course, like most creatures out here, lots of fleas and ticks and things, so there will be scratching along them, but also, at least with the baboons having working hands, they're able to help each other out and remove the different parasites from each other. I can just hear them. They're quite a distance away, but I can just hear them sort of talking to each other. Well, we know if Karula appears anywhere in this area, she's going to try sneak away from the baboons, not wanting to be spotted or chased. They can be a very formidable opponent to a female leopard. Okay, well, the baboons look like they're slowly moving off. Well, there's still a few left. They always look guilty, like they've just done something wrong, or they're about to. Now we are going to be disappearing for a break shortly. We're going to keep on searching. I'm hoping that there's going to be some fresh lion or leopard tracks in the western area. It's the only area we haven't really looked at carefully this safari so far. So while we head across there and see, hopefully, as I said, we're going to find some cats. Oh, no tracks here. But while we do that, we're going to leave you for a few seconds, but we'll be back right after this. Brian, how many ties did you sell today? Three. Only three? Only three. That's quite sad. But while we cry about the amount of ties Brian managed to sell during our ad break, let's go back to Jamie with those gorgeous little Styx cubs.
Well, so far I've managed to dodge every ad break. I'm doing very well, especially I think it's because I messed it up so badly yesterday afternoon that Kirsty's decided I can no longer, I'm no longer responsible for doing ad breaks. While you've been with Brent and those baboons, we are still sitting with our Styx Lioness, who's doing her most ladylike impression, leg up in the air, looking thoroughly comfortable. And just a quick update while I'm listening to, before I turn my game drive channel down a little bit. Nkanyeni is reunited with Vitomi and is on Torchwood. So the female leopard that hangs out around Cheetah Plains, she is reunited with her young male cub, and all is well. These two are Ellie, and is now lying on its back, I think trying to catch its own foot. I'm not 100% sure what's going on there, but it's just this little face that keeps popping up. Oh, that was appropriately timed. Large face just popped up unexpectedly. And she's alert and looking around. I wonder where the rest of the pride is. What does she see in there, Vian? Oh, one hapless impala. My suspicion would be, first of all, given her current body language, she's not terribly interested in that impala that's busy feeding off in the distance. I also suspect that these impala know that she's here. And the reason I say that is because when I first drove in, I noticed there was a fresh pile of impala droppings all around this area, which makes me think that perhaps they were disturbed, because we always see this impala herd here. So it makes me think that perhaps they were disturbed by the lions a little bit earlier. So I think that they're aware of her presence and the presence of the two cubs, but you never know. This is live, and strange things have happened before on our live safaris. So one particularly silly impala might decide to come wandering a little bit too close, in which case I think then our lioness will get up. In the meantime, one cub is draped across this dead tree, which is exactly what we saw the Styx cubs doing before as well. The previous litters, they would also go and climb onto logs, fallen trees and so on. I think it's a good way for them to scratch as well. I think that roughness just helps them a little bit. And we don't know that all of the previous Styx cubs died from mange. There was one report that one was killed by an elephant. I'm not sure whether or not anybody actually saw that happen or if it was just a report. But these two seem to be alive and healthy. No, definitely alive. And not healthy, but definitely not looking as bad. I'm quite hopeful for these two. I think it'd be lovely to see them supplement the number of the Styx. What do you think, girl? I will probably leave her in the not too distant future, go off in search of other things, see perhaps whether or not the cheetah have decided to pop back over the boundary, especially since she definitely doesn't seem as though she is going to stir or twitch an ear right now. You can see the suckle marks. She's been rubbed bare, essentially, from where the cubs have been suckling. I don't think that can be terribly comfortable on top of the mange as well. Must be actually very uncomfortable for her. It's such a beautifully peaceful morning. The call of the grey-headed bushshrike in the distance. There was a cuckoo calling earlier. It's such a lovely way to spend a day. Relaxed with relaxing lions. Little cubs, you're going to stay hidden there. It seems as though the mange really affects their paws. Their paws and their elbows seem to be the places that bug them the most. I'm not sure if that's because it's where it affects them the worst, or if it's just because that's the bits that they can reach. And those seem to be the places that they tend to scratch the most. Right. Let me not make the same mistake as I did yesterday. Going back into TV, thinking I was going into an ad break. I got it this time, Cursed. Never fear. And welcome back to all of our imaginary TV audiences that don't exist and in fact is just our internet audience. My name is Jamie and this morning VM is on camera with me and we've had an extraordinary morning so far, live from the greater Kruger National Park area out here in the African bush, sitting with one of Africa's most iconic big cats. We've been with this Styx Lioness and her two gorgeous cubs who've just finished having breakfast and are now resting up and sort of putting their morning to good use by doing some scratching and some wriggling around and the occasional big yoga style stretch whilst their mom snoozes away peacefully. Now, because you are on a live safari, it means that it is interactive, so you can send through your questions and you can do that using the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. In order to get hold of us, let's have a little bit of a chat about the Styx, any questions that you might want to ask about these gorgeous lions, or in fact any aspect of the African wilderness. Perhaps you'd like to know about tracking, about birds. Feel free to ask anything that you would like. I love the way they're both lying on their back, it's so cute. Now, Nat, you wanted to know how it is that mange kills little cubs. The most basic answer is anemia, because mange is, of course, caused by little mites or little parasites that bury into the skin. And particularly for small cubs, obviously they are more vulnerable than the adults because they're smaller, they have less in the way of body fluids. So it often is anemia coupled with hunger and starvation. And Mary, you wanted to know if mange is a known disease while our little cub looks up. Wouldn't it warrant intervention? No, on the basis that it is a naturally occurring disease. So because it hasn't been introduced by humans, it is something that would have occurred out here. It could have happened to them whether or not we were here to watch them. The answer is no, particularly because the population is not too endangered here. And Hannah, you want to know if when the cubs start eating meat, will they start to get better? I hope so, Hannah. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Mom is providing them with some very good quality rich milk. Her diet will have been vastly improved after the rains, so I don't think so. Peggy, you want to know why don't humans get mange, or do they? Do humans get mange? I think you probably find we could. But we're able to treat it, we're able to look after it. I'm not sure, Peggy. I'm not sure about whether or not human beings can get mange. I think it's scabies. Yes, it is. Kids get scabies. Yes, humans can get scabies, which is essentially the same thing as far as I know. I'm not sure. Good question, Peggy. That's an unexpected find. That was not what I was expecting to hear Brent had found at all. I was expecting him to have found Queen Karula. He hasn't. He's found something very fascinating.
Well, hello. I've got a little friend next to me here. Here we go. And it is a little flapneck chameleon. And we normally don't pick them up, but this one was going down one of the main access roads, and it's quite dangerous. I mean, there's lots of different vehicles that drive up and down these entrance roads, so it's quite dangerous for them. And obviously not everyone who's driving into these reserves are safari guides. They're not as observant. So when we do find them on the roads, we generally do move them onto a safe area. Now I'm just going to wait for him to get onto my other hand, and then I'll give you a nice close look at him and just watch how his eyes are constantly moving in all directions. See that very slow, almost staggered chameleon walk? There we go. Hey, mister. Oh no, we want to look at the camera. He doesn't want to look at camera. Isn't this absolutely exquisite? You can see how they get their, oh sorry Brian, their name, the flapneck chameleon. You can see the flap on the back of their neck. And you can see how spiny they are. And you just see on his belly all those little spikes, and also those continue all the way around his body, along his back. And look at those, incredible. He's almost going a pinkish hue. Now, even chameleons can change colour, but they'll battle to sort of match flesh. And you can see the claws on there, and those wonderful gripping feet. Let me try put my arm resting so I don't move so much. How's that, Brian? And you can see how he's gripping around my finger. And obviously that's how they clamber up and down and around trees. This is one of my first really nice chameleon sightings of the year. Just watch those eyes, how they move in all directions. Okay. You've had your time as a TV star, mister. It's time to put you back in the tree safely, that you are no longer on the road. It was actually spotted by Brian as we were driving along in the middle of the road. Now, let's see. Come on. Oh, yeah, he's excited. He's like, that's much better. Now, we'll watch him carefully for a little bit. He should start going a bit more green to start matching the green of this little bush willow we've popped him in. Hey, mister. They are such cool creatures. Now, there's so much folklore around chameleons, and the fact that their eyes rotate almost 180 degrees, they change color, and of course their tongue that shoots out to grab insects. As put them in the realm of magic with a lot of African tribes, and in a lot of places they're killed as soon as they are spotted. And one of the reasons for that is that certain tribes blame the chameleon for human beings not being immortal. The chameleon was tasked by the great creator to pass on a message to the human being saying, if you want to be immortal, all you have to do is say yes. But he got sidetracked by a bunch of, I think it was, I can't remember which insects entirely, and he just gorged himself and got so fat that he was unable to get to the human beings to pass the message, and therefore humans only found out after the creator's deadline for immortality was over. Yeah, so cool. And you can see how he's disappearing into the leaves, and that camouflage working fantastically well. Well, we'll leave the flap-neck chameleon to continue on his search, possibly for breakfast, possibly for a mate. And we're going to keep on our search for big cats. Okay. We'll have one more look as the chameleon is disappearing into the leaf litter. And while he disappears, we're going to head further to the west. And in the meantime, let's go back to the not-so-camouflaged James Hendry.
Larry, you wanted to know about the stingless bees and whether they're back. They are back. And I'm afraid I made a real hash of this thing yesterday. I had to put some gaffer tape on it simply because we cannot see into the hole. And I originally tried to put some black card over the top of it, and we can't, because of this microscope and the way it's set up, it's not possible to expose for the hole, and so I needed it to be in a dark background, and unfortunately I may have mangled the thing a bit, but the bees are in there, and we're now able to see further down into the hole there. You can see. So as we move it around a bit, you can see down in there, and they are definitely in there. They certainly have been there for the last few days, and yesterday they were very irritated with me because I'd managed to damage their entrance tunnel. But I'm pretty sure they're still there. So let's just there we go. There we are, Larry. Your wish is granted. Now, while we wait for the stingless bee to make another appearance, RF Phoebe, or RFC Phoebe, that's it. You say, wait, what? Mites for navigation? I'm just using a southern accent because of the wait what at the front of that. I spoke about mites being used for navigation on the millipede earlier. And yes, RFC Phoebe, they're used for mites, at least they're used for navigation by dung beetles. That's how they think they find dung. Not so much for navigation, yes, navigation to the dung piles, but dung beetles, of course, navigate or orientate themselves using the stars and the polarization of the light, which is actually quite astounding when you think about it. Then I'm just going to keep this thing here. We're hoping the bee's going to come back out again. We had another question from Bobby Chairs. That's a lovely name, Bobby Chairs. Bobby Chairs, you want to know about whether we get the Wolverine frog here. The Wolverine frog, I've never heard of the Wolverine frog, Bobby Chairs, but I'm going to look it up because it sounds like quite a fascinating frog. We don't get anything called a Wolverine frog here in South Africa. These chaps are not coming out, but they are still there, and we're going to try and rehabilitate them to the microscope and to living out here. That's very good. Now, I just wanted to quickly show you. Oh, hang on. No, I won't. I'll save that for later. Connor is in the air and he's got a lovely view of Gendre, Stef, and hopefully Herberto. There they are. Not sure where Herbert's hiding. He's probably tracking off. There's Gendre doing what Gendre does best, which is behave like an imbecile, kissing his hand and waving it at you. There is Stefan. He is waving. He never behaves like an imbecile. And Herbert... Let's see if we can spot Herbert. Just a bit like, there he is. No, that's not him. Herbert is a bit like, I don't know if you ever got Richard Scarey books when you were kids, but Lowly the Worm, you had to try and spot him. No, Goldbug, you had to try and spot Goldbug in all the different pictures. And it's a bit like that with Herbert and the drone. That's quite a stretch, that really. I'm not sure that analogy works. Goldbug and Herbert. Anyway, maybe some of you will understand what I mean. Let's head down to Stef and his hand-kissing friend Gendre now.
I'm wondering if you did find Herbert, because I haven't seen Herbert in the last 30 or 40 minutes. I think he's been around looking for tracks and signs of Karula in this area. But what have we got for you here? I like walking through thickets of these gum grass. I find gum grass inspiring. It's one of my favorite grasses. And at the top of the inflorescence on one of these gum grasses, we found this very interesting thing. And it's a spider web. She is in attendance. She's inside her web. And she's managed to catch a whole bunch of what looks to be little wasps or ants. She is the grey blob, quite close to the rachis, or the middle part of the grass inflorescence. She looks almost exactly like a seed. And I think that's what's happened. These wasps have come to feed on the nectar, or these ants have come to feed on the nectar of this grass when it was flowering, and she's now caught herself a bunch and larded the 2 or 3 that I can see here, feasting on them. But we're just going to give you an idea of exactly how small this particular spider is by letting this go. And then standing up and showing you how this spider's world is. She's blowing around in the wind there. I cannot imagine what it must be like to be that spider living on this inflorescence. I mean, imagine putting yourself at the top of one of the tallest towers on Earth and then having it whoop around massively in the wind in the night and the day, and there you have to catch your food, build your home, look after your babies. It just blows my mind just to think about how the environments that these animals absolutely live. It is incredible. Now, James, you've made an observation here about spiders. And you obviously watch the show a lot, and you've noticed that there's no golden orb web spiders this year. For those of you who do not watch a lot, a golden orb web spider is one of our most significant spiders out here. They're big, they're large spiders, probably about as big as a baseball if you were to flatten a baseball out. And the webs that they make are golden in color and massive. I mean, they would festoon areas and gaps in the trees here, spanning many, many yards. Some webs have anchor lines that are 10, 15 yards long, and they drape the area here in some years. Now, James, you've asked, where have they all gone? James, that's a good question. I have a theory on this particular thing. I personally feel that the lack of insects last year had a profound effect on the amount of spiders that could actually live, gain enough food to have enough eggs for their babies to live and then reseed the next generation. And I think what's happened is we've gone into an absolute decline of spiders, and in particular of large spiders like the golden orbs, because we didn't have so many insects last year as a result of the drought that we had. So I think it's a bit of a knock-on effect due to lack of food. And what's going to happen is over the next couple of years, hopefully as we go into a bit of a wetter cycle, that ballooning youngsters from another area will have ballooned in here this season, 1 or 2. They will have enough food, hopefully, to make enough eggs, hopefully, to have enough healthy youngsters that would then stay in this area and utilize the insects in this area. For a similar reason, I think that is why we're seeing so many flies at the moment, is that there's very little to catch these flies. There's very little big webs between the trees. And by that I mean, at this time of the year, we should be seeing so many spiders in these gaps that you won't be able to walk through those gaps to actually walk through thickets like this. The spiders would be blanketing that 100%. And we're just having none of that this year. There just isn't any spiders. So James, yeah, in answer to your question, sort of in summary, I think the lack of insects last year due to the drought had a profound effect on large spiders, in particular the golden orbweb spiders, and for their numbers to start increasing, spiders are going to have to seed this area from another place. And luckily further south in the Sabi Sands they've had much more rain than here late in the season. I think that's going to have an effect, hopefully, but you know, time will tell. I haven't lived through a drought like this in the last 20 years here, so it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens. All right, and on that note, and I hope I answered that enough or to satisfaction, we're going to send you over to Jamie and catch up with you a bit later.
The reserve that I used to work at had 2 perennial rivers that ran through it, so massive river systems, huge trees, and of course it provided the perfect habitat for golden orb spiders. And it was always thoroughly entertaining because orb spiders look terrifying. They're big, they're brightly colored, they look as though they're going to potentially kill you if they bite you. They're not harmful at all, of course. The bite hurts a little bit, but really nothing too serious. But to watch some people, shame, I really felt for people who are even not necessarily properly arachnophobic, just generally don't like spiders. Watching them when you drive through, and by the end of it I'd got to the point where I was so used to just reaching up and pulling webs down as we drove through to make sure that I didn't have guests attempting to leave the vehicle, because it's amazing. People will choose to jump out of a car, or there are certain people who will jump out of a car if there's a spider in with them, which is not entirely logical, which I understand is the whole point. It's not an entirely rational response, but you know, when you've got guests that want to jump out when there's elephants around or there's lions around because there's a spider in the vehicle, you find yourself with an interesting lesson in crowd control almost, because the panic seems to spread. The funniest sight I ever saw was a very sweet friend of mine who moved from, because all safari vehicles generally have 3 rows of seats, moved from the front to the back without touching the middle in order to get away from the spider. I'm not entirely, to this day, some of the greatest feats of human acrobatics I have ever seen have been in response to a spider or a snake. Connor performed a spectacular backwards leap over a chair once at the fireplace because there was a snake that had crawled out of a piece of wood. Now you do see, it's amazing what spiders and snakes and scorpions bring out in terms of people's physical abilities. Quite phenomenal. We're on the southern boundary of Cheetah Plains, just to do a quick check, see whether or not the cheetah have come through. It's such perfect weather for cheetah. It's nice and cool, they're diurnal animals, so they're going to be moving around. So even though somebody's clearly driven here already this morning, just judging by their tracks, I think it's still worth going to have a quick look and see. Maybe the wildebeest herd is on the open area as well. I still haven't had a proper baby wildebeest sighting this year. I'm quite devastated by. And there were lots of elephants around. Which way have they all gone? It looks as though they've gone south. Earlier on I passed a pile of elephant dung that essentially consisted of whole marulas. That was basically what that pile of dung was. Now elephants are having the best time with the marula fruits at the moment, to the point that they're basically not even chewing. They're just swallowing them whole. Which of course provides, in its own way, in terms of the ecosystem, for the marula fruits that don't get fully digested. They've then got the perfect potting soil almost, or pile of compost that they've landed in. because of the elephant's digestive system, they're excreted whole, and then they've got the perfect food source to germinate. So all in all, it works in beautiful balance, in order the balance between elephants and marula trees. Okay. Hello. Good morning. Cheetah Plains is the home of the red-crested Korhaan. There are so many of them about. Here we go. Tried to hide, but didn't fully manage it. One of the things that we managed to catch on camera once, briefly a couple of weeks ago, was the display of the red-crested Korhaan, the flight display where they fly up into the air and then tumble out of the sky. And I've only managed to get it on camera once. Look at the steady stalk. Really slowly moving. So for our new viewers, this is a red-crested Korhaan, related to a family of birds known as the bustards, which includes in its members the largest, the heaviest flying bird. We could see them out here. It's called a Kori bustard. I haven't seen any of them. I'm not sure whether they've been... I think they have been seen on the live drives before. this sneak, like if it moves really slowly, we won't actually be able to see where it is. Stopping to have a jolly good clean. Those feathers are so beautiful. Combination. I know, of course, the brightly coloured birds always get the majority of the attention when it comes to beauty, but I always find that these sort of feather patterns are also equally gorgeous to look at if you look closely. Now, the red crest sits under that sort of greyish patch on the top of his head, and you hardly ever get to see it unless they're in full display mode, trying to intimidate a rival or impress a lady. And I've only seen it a few times myself, and I've definitely never seen it on our live safaris. I've never been able to put it on camera. Oh, stretch out. And have a jolly good fluff. Of course, all of those feather movements, think about the muscle work that goes into that, in order to pull each and every feather up and fluff itself up like that. The intricacies of their design. Oh. Now, you know, the last time we saw a red-crested Korhaan do its display, it was because we sat patiently and watched it call a few times. Maybe that's what we should do now. I'm listening to see if there's a male responding, because that would be what would trigger a flight display from this bird. I'm not sure if you could hear the clicks in the beginning of that call. They have a sort of a bill snap before they go into the full whistling call. Unfortunately, I don't have my bird calls with me, so I can't call back to him. And as you know, my attempts at mimicking any of the animals out here are usually spectacularly poor. I don't think my Korhaan impression is going to be enough to tempt him into doing that flight display. One more time for us. Let's see, if he calls again, then we'll sit patiently and we'll see if he doesn't do that flight display. There he goes again. Such a pity we couldn't get the full view of his face there, because it's entertaining to watch them do their call. But you can see how much of the bird's body actually goes into making that sound. From the bill snaps in the beginning to the fluttering of the syrinx, or the bird's voice box. Am I imagining? I'm hearing something else. Hornbill. Yeah. I thought I was imagining it at first, but there is a family of ground hornbill that lives around here, and I can hear them calling in the distance. Can you hear it, Liam? Do you think they'll be able to hear it? Fortunately, the wind's blowing now, which is going to make picking up the sounds difficult. But just in the distance, there's that almost prehistoric-like sound of the ground hornbills. I think the wind's probably going to make it difficult. Oh, here we go again. Such a pretty sound. The last time we caught the flight display on camera, it happened so quickly. I think it was with Rion. He did the most amazing job of managing to capture it, because that Korhaan shot up out of nowhere. It was totally unexpected. Now I want to go and look for those hornbill, but I think they might be a little bit far. Ground hornbill, by the way, for our new viewers, is a very large, almost turkey-sized bird with a very, very big, solid bill, and they are critically endangered, so it's one of the animals that we really love to see. Speaking of loving to see things, of course, one of the best ways to view animals is on foot. Let's go and see what massive giant Stef has found.
This male elephant. There's just something magical about experiencing something that big on foot. And although we're probably about 50 or 60 yards away from that elephant, there's still a very good chance that he smells us. The wind is blowing directly towards him. I've got an ash bag here with some just campfire ash in it. And he's going to be walking into our scent now. So I actually want us to back off where we're going to go. We've got a termite mound behind us. I don't want this elephant to quest us. And quite often what happens is they change direction like they did. He changed direction completely to where I thought he was going to go. And quite often they'll come down the scent towards us, especially if he's in Musth. And what I want to try and do is just get us a bit closer to our point of safety. We're okay here. So now what I'm trying to do is just figure out where this elephant is. He's absolutely walked into where our scent would be blowing. 9 times out of 10, what happens is they walk in the opposite direction. Most animals want to avoid confrontation. I'm just going to have a look here. Come with me. That male elephant couldn't even care. He's just after one thing and one thing only, and that's marulas. Now Betty, while we're looking at this elephant, I'm going to be pointing out the pointers to your question on how I know it's a male elephant. Betty, one is the size. So from far away, big elephants are usually male elephants. Secondly, he's on his own. Female elephants are usually with herds. So that's how we would have told from far away. The next thing is his tusks. He's got quite robust tusks. Female elephants' tusks are very unusually that thick. About half that diameter. Another pointer from this angle is the fact that those tusks point forward and not at the ground. A male elephant use their tusks to fight with one another and as swords basically, and so they have forward facing tusks rather than downward facing tusks. Other pointers would be, as he steps forward in a little bit, is they have a penile sheath on their belly, basically where you'd expect a belly button to be. And just his massive size, you can see that big skull that he has. Now I expect this bull elephant to be in a condition called musth, or must as some people say. So you can say it's M-U-S-T-H, musth or must. Hey, look at that, shaking that marula tree. Now just to remind everybody, we are live and we are on foot, 50 yards away from this elephant. We're in a bit of a compromised place in that the wind direction is from us to him, but he doesn't seem to either have picked us up yet, our scent up, or he just doesn't care, which can happen with elephant. Unusual for them not to care, but it can happen with elephant. Now the reason why I haven't moved from where we're standing now into a better wind direction is because our only place of safety is behind us. It's a termite mound, an elevated position. and I don't want to go away from that elevated position just yet. So we're letting the elephant dictate what he wants to do, and we're staying close to our safe place. Obviously, one of the biggest things that we try and accomplish out here on foot is to have as little to no impact on the animals we're viewing whatsoever. And it almost looks exactly like that. He's just moving around, feeding on those marulas. We having no impact on the way he is going about his day, and that's exactly how we want to keep it. Now, we're going to try and see what he's going to do, keeping out of the wind direction for him. And we're going to send you over to James in the tent. We're going to stick with him for as long as we can. And catch up with you a little bit later.
Sometimes the best thing to do is just lie down in amongst the grass and wait. That is what I'm doing. And then you discover things. And the thing that I've discovered here is a robber fly on the end of Pogonathra squarosa, or the herringbone grass. Now, I think you saw it when it came to us. There it is there. And I think it's probably just a little bit cold for him to move at the moment. So what I'd quite like to do is to take him inside and put him under the microscope. And that is going to require a fairly delicate motion. Now, I know that Stef was moving around in a delicate motion, and this is a different kind of delicacy required, because, of course, it's not that we don't want the robber fly to discover us. It's that we don't want it to abscond. It's so comfortable here. The temperature is perfect. Right, let's see. He's still here. So far, so good. Right, I'm going to be quiet now because I need to turn off the sound in the tent. It's gone. That really makes me cross. I thought we were going to get such a good view of it. Anyway, it was a robber fly. Now, I'm going to have a little quiz with you. And when you come back from the break, you're going to tell me what you think this is. All I'm going to show you is that. What do you think that is, everyone? And I guarantee you're going to get this wrong. So have a look at it. It's got 6 sides. Seems to have a bit of a front to it. There is a red herring if ever there was one. I'm trying to think if I should show you another piece of it. Yes, I'll show you another piece of it. No, I can't show you another piece of it. There we go. Marvellous. Righty-ho. So, you can tell me what that is. Hashtag Safari Live. When you come back, the answer will be revealed and Stef will be with his elephant, hopefully. See you shortly. We're in advert break, obviously. Now, I'm not going to show you what this is. I want you to tell me what you think it was. I think you will be surprised. Many of you, of course, are experts, and if I were to put something basic like a moth underneath there, you'd know immediately what it was. But I think this one is going to surprise you somewhat. So I'm going to put it... David, don't show it. I'm going to put it behind there. How conspiratorial. White Lady Eon, you say, is it an arachnid? No, it is not an arachnid. And in case you're wondering where the word arachnid comes from, it comes from the lexicon of Brent Leo Smith. And I'm not sure whether he says arachnid because that's what he thinks it is, or if he just says it like that because it's quite fun to say. Brent is in the FC, and he will tell us if he says it because it's amusing or because it's correct. It is funny, I agree. He says it's because it's funny. Arachnid is a wonderful word. Anyone else? No one else want to guess? Yuri says a spider. No, Mary, it's not a spider. I am thoroughly beating you on this one. Let's have 2 more. No, not a scorpion, MS Sky. High Noon says a dung beetle leg. That's closer. Anyone else? Scott, you say a tick. Negative. None of the above. And Aaron, you reckon it's a mosquito? No. You'll be amazed when I show this to you. Sally, you say a bug. Well, it's not actually a bug. It's a beetle. It's a long horned beetle with the longest horns you've ever seen. Isn't that amazing? And those were its front feet. I showed you. Geraldine Kent apparently guessed it. Well, given that she caught it, I think, and gave it to me, I think that's quite impressive. Isn't that amazing? It's. I showed you the front feet. Those are the things that I showed you there. Isn't that astounding? Look at its. Look at its. Look at its mouth parts moving. Let's have a look at them under the microscope. Ivanon, you want to know why Brent is in the FC? Well, it's because Brent's decided that, 2 hours of work a day are entirely sufficient. So he's gone back to have a bit of R&R. No, Rusty has got a problem. So he is now waiting in the FC to see if it gets fixed before he can try and head out again. Look at the mouth parts there. Now, the longhorns are largely wood-boring beetles, and you can see why, or what makes them wood-boring. Those astoundingly powerful mouth parts. There we are. And look at his eyes. Aren't his eyes amazing? And then I'll turn him around and I'll try and show you his legs again. I will just travel along his leg there and get eventually to the furry bit that I showed you. That's what I showed you there. Well, he's moving around a bit. There we are. Isn't that amazing? That's all I showed you. You can just see the little claw on the left-hand side there. And this one has got a bit of a neurological tick because I'm afraid we caught it in camp. And they have sprayed the walls for mosquitoes because of malaria. So cool. In amongst the beautifully conditioned skin of my nails. Wonderful. Right. Right, so let's have another last look at him like this. And just look at the length of his horns, or his antennae. And, Linda, you wonder what they eat. They bore into wood, and otherwise they're largely plant eaters. So they probably eat flowers and plants and a bit of nectar and that sort of thing, but they bore into wood and lay their legs in wood. Right, we're going back to TV now, everybody. Stand by. Welcome back, everybody, to your live safari from one of the world's most iconic wildlife areas. We've had Jamie with the lions, Brent Leo Smith is in the final control, very exciting stuff there, and Stef on foot with elephants, and we've got a longhorn beetle. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get a hold of us. Ask us your questions, send us your comments, tell us what you think this is. You don't have to do that anymore because I've just told you what it is. Right, that is the rehearsal of the advert break over. Looks almost like a sort of bird dropping, doesn't it? Jennifer, you want to know if they bite? Let's find out. Ah! No, Jennifer, they don't bite. They can bite. But this one is not biting. Not a biter. I'm hoping it's going to survive long enough till tomorrow, because he really is quite spectacular. But like I say, he's on his way out, and I don't know that he'll make it. Oh, Lord John, the Duke of Westminster, we'd like to know why it's got the hairs on its legs. I don't know, Lord John. I can only assume that it is perhaps to help it when it is holding on to whatever it lives on. This one was found in the camp. It is, of course, camouflaged as a bird dropping. And I don't know, maybe those hairs just help it to hold on to whatever the substrate is that it lives on. And they're most impressive, aren't they? You can see this one definitely described or disguised to look like a bird turd. Wonderful. I'm going to put him back in here. Dr. Debbie, you've asked a very interesting question, which would be quite interesting for the man himself to answer. I mean, the final control is not far from here, so maybe he'd like to come across here and tell us himself. He is coming to the tent right now. We might get visual of him. Dr. Debbie, you want to know why it is that Brent breaks the cars so often. Well, let's find out. Brent? Dr. Debbie wants to know why you break the cars so often.
Not break the car.
He says he did not break the car.
This is a technical signal.
He says this is a technical signal issue.
And James breaks the cars more than I do.
No, I get them stuck more than you do. I don't break them more than you do.
Well, I don't know, but getting them stuck, it tends to cause some problems that then I have to fix afterwards.
I see. Right, go back to the final control. Absolute drivel. Right, Jamie is still out on her car. I became slightly shocked there. Her hat is perched at a very jaunty angle.
Very jaunty angle. I shouldn't have actually done that because my microphone's in it. But I didn't have much time to prepare for that. James took me by surprise. But no, I better keep my hat at a non-jaunty angle. Make sure it stays on my head because the microphone sits up just above my forehead, which occasionally causes, because we've all of us have had to learn not to touch our hats because you do it automatically. You know, you take your hat off, you sweep your hair back and then put your hat back on. Oh dear, have I done a terrible thing now? I think I might have knocked my mic out. There we go. Not too bad. I was concerned there for a second that perhaps I'd done irreparable damage to my microphone by applying my hat at a jaunty angle. Oh, speaking of jaunty, we are jaunting our way home back towards Djuma, but we'll stop off quickly at the Styx, provided there's space for us. Just have a look, one last look and see what they're up to. We were just having a chat about leopards and the dynamics, and I'm sure many of you have heard that Tiani, the daughter of Salaeshe, which is a leopard that we don't often get to see, I'm sure many of you have heard that she was on an impala kill not too far away from Djuma. She was up in a place called One Eye Pan on Simbambili, and Vim and I were just discussing whether or not perhaps there's a chance. It would be so nice if it worked this way. It probably won't, but it would be so nice if it did. That Tiani might decide to establish herself in that sort of top northwestern corner of Djuma and maybe into around Sydney's Dam there. Because of course a lot of that was the territory of Shaluva, who is no longer with us. So there's a gap there. There's a vacuum. What you seeing, Vim? Line track, yeah, that's our, yeah, there we go. There's the tracks for the cubs. They've been driven over, unfortunately, so they're not very clear, otherwise I would show you. Oh dear, my microphone is making a run for it. Just sit there and don't do anything. Okay, let's see if there's some space for us at the Styx sighting. Hopefully our signal decides to hold up. It does tend to go a bit funny in this patch. It was okay this morning. It was okay earlier with the Styx, so it should be okay. Find my radio. I didn't hear anybody there. I suspect we're going to go there and find that they're all on their own without any other vehicles. Make our way back in towards this lion sighting. For now, let's send you back over to Stef and his elephant.
We've been following this elephant. He doesn't know we're here. We've been following him about 50 yards or so. And he's just come onto the clearing in front of us. Have a look over there. It's just been such a wonderful experience. You have no idea how fast these animals walk. We've probably covered about at least a mile since we last were with you, almost at running pace. This particular bull elephant definitely got a destination in mind. Probably the marula trees that are all over quarantine clearings at the moment, which are the big open clearings close to where we stay. And the reason for quarantine clearings is that they are on a crest, and the crests are where the marulas grow, and in particular the marula trees that are on top of quarantine clearings are massive trees with huge numbers of fruit. And this elephant is just making the most of the bounty that is that fruit at the moment. I really can't explain to you how fast we've been walking, trying to keep up with this elephant. Now, we still don't have the wind in our favor, so we're still going to have to be trying to march in front of this guy, trying to get in front of him. Reg, you've just asked me if it's true if elephants get embarrassed if they try and scare off a threat that isn't a threat. I presume you're talking about a mouse or something that an elephant gets afraid of. You know, I'm going to have to say yes, they look embarrassed. I don't think it's quite as sophisticated an emotion as embarrassment would be to us. But you can sometimes see these elephants look confused, and they just look like something is gone. Not to plan is how I'd like to put it. Oh, it's just so amazing to be with a bull elephant like this. So let's see if we can just stay out of his wind. And by that, I mean, I don't want our wind to blow onto him. It's going to disturb him. So what we're going to do is march with this elephant. I'm using an ash bag to just determine wind direction. Okay, slowly, slowly, slowly. Elephant's vision is not that good, but they can pick up movement at quite a distance. And what we don't want to do is disturb this elephant. We want to be with him, we want to enjoy what this elephant's doing, but we don't want to have an impact on this elephant's day. That to me is the aspiration. So at the moment, he's busy picking up some grass. We've stopped. The reason I've stopped is because he's stopped, and so movement he would pick up. They got about as good an eyesight as what we do. It's just almost always pointed at their feet. Now Ian, who's only 10 years old, has asked me what I'd do if this elephant charged me. Ian, I'd look for some elevated position, to be quite honest with you. Elephants don't like it when you're bigger than them. They're the biggest things out here. And so when you're taller than what they are, they get nervous. A big bull elephant like this, he's got nothing to be nervous from me, of course. I'm just going to be creating distance and getting out of his way. That's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, come with me. All right. I'm just keeping wind direction, constantly just in what I'm busy doing. Wind direction is so important. The wind is moving like this. It's just, I don't know, this is what being a trails guide's all about, is to experience the bush on a visceral level. And being able to share this sighting with you is really one of the ways that I can show a connection, what we do. To spend time on foot unawares with the largest mammal to walk the earth at this moment in time, it's just a magic feeling. It's difficult to describe because you get a lot closer in the vehicles, but there's almost a barrier from a vehicle to a field guide. On foot, you're part of the food chain, and there's a palpable energy surge that goes through people. I mean, elephant are, in my opinion, the most dangerous animals to encounter in the bush when they're uninjured. Leopard are the most dangerous, in my opinion, to encounter in the bush injured. Now Marius, you're looking at that elephant flapping his ears and you're wondering if that elephant has the best hearing of all the animals. Marius, good question, man. And the reason for that is because elephants can hear into a range that's much lower than the audible range for humans. And so they hear in they can hear and they can produce infrasound, ultra low frequency noises. So they can hear well. In other words, their dynamic range is very, very good. They can scream at a high-pitched squeal. They can go all the way down to infrasound. As to how deep they can hear or how far they can hear, I think some predators will probably be able to hear a little bit better. Tough to say, but they definitely have a very wide dynamic range to hear from. And so in that aspect, I'm going to say yes, they do. They hear very good or well. Let's see if we can move a little bit behind this bush. We're just going to be moving slowly, slowly. Now, Anna Marie, you've asked what animal scares elephant the most. Humans. Man has been hunting elephant for ivory for thousands and thousands of years. And the elephant that we see out in the bush today, any of the wild elephants, have an instinctual fear of humans. And sad to say that although they react to lion and they react to buffalo and they react to elephant, to other predators like hyena and cheetah, that the scariest moments, the panic-induced moments that I see elephant go into is when they have smelt or heard humans on foot. And even elephants in areas like where we are now, this brilliant wilderness that's the Kruger National Park, where hunting of elephant hasn't occurred in decades, these particular animals are still super sensitive to man on foot. And it's because of 1,000 years of breeding caution into these elephants. They're just very wary. It's quite sad to see, actually. I found elephant to be the epitome of Africa for me. They're full of rage, they're full of anger, but they're just as tragic in a way. Powerful, but susceptible to all these types of environmental pressures and worldly pressures. They're just, that animal there that you're looking at over there is Africa for me. Really, really cool. All right, now we're going to be going to a advert break at the moment. Don't go anywhere. When you get back, who knows where we're going to be with this elephant. Right, just some practice with those ad breaks. As you've no doubt been told by the other presenters, we need to practice these things to get them as smooth as we can for our TV show. Now, Emily, who's only 9 years old, has asked, why are elephants grey in colour? And Emily, that's another fantastic question. Seems like all the good questions are coming from the youngsters today. They're grey because it's a neutral colour. That particular grey allows elephants to blend into their backgrounds incredibly well. They don't need to be camouflaged. They don't hunt anything. And so that grey allows them to blend into the bush and offers them a type of environmental camouflage, a type of environmental capacity to hide away. And almost all the large animals have these neutral colours. Large bull buffalo lose their black fur and become this colour grey. Rhinoceros, this colour grey. Elephant, this colour grey. And as you can see, he's almost the same colour as the tree behind him, that marula tree behind him. Not that an elephant needs to hide away from anything, but it's not a good idea to stick out too much. Can you imagine what it would look like if elephants were bright orange or pink or white with purple dots on them? Be quite different there. There you can see that those tusks are now pointed forward, very robust tusks. Now just behind his eye, I want you to notice that there's a hole between his eye and his ear. That's his temporal gland. It's swollen. They can sometimes swell up to 3 times their normal size when this bull elephant is in musth or must. I think that is swollen. It looks larger than normal. He's also carrying the tops of his ears above the level of his shoulders. And that tells me that he's probably in or coming into or going out of musth. Those are his signs to me at the moment. Anyway, we're going to try and see if we can get in front of this bull elephant for you and change the view a little bit. We're going to be doing a lot of sneaking now, and so we're going to sneak in front of this Ellie without bothering him. While we're doing that, we're going to send you over to James, who's got a beetle to show you.
There's the beetle, everybody, on its back. Not very happy. In fact, one might describe it as very unhappy. Let me just see if I can help it up. Come on, hold on. There you are. There you are. There you are. No. 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 Right, this is a 2-spot ground beetle, and they are predators. They like to eat, there's my dirty nail again, on account of the digging outside. They are predators of other small beetles. And what I will do is put his mouth under the microscope, and you'll be able to see how. Now, you asked me a little bit earlier if that longhorn beetle would bite. They don't, but these do. Sometimes. This one I've been trying to get to bite me to see how sore it would be. And there's some of these I certainly wouldn't pick up because of their teeth. But this one doesn't seem very enthusiastic about biting. So let's just look at that under the microscopy. There it is. And there it is. See that? There you can see, oh, he's trying to get out from underneath the microscope. Oh, dear. Sit still. And what you've got there are the 2 very sharp mandibles, and then a whole lot of other bits and pieces that help to push whatever he wants to eat in. Now, he's moving around quite a lot. I'm going to just try and hold him steady. There we are. You can see them there. Those 2 very, very sharp clamping things at the top. That's what will really hurt in a healthy ground beetle. All right, let's come back here. And what I'll show you also is that the ground beetle does not have, well, it's got an elytra that is fused. Now, the elytra is the sort of hind, these are the hind wings that would, or the forewings, they would have been the forewings of the beetle. And on a dung beetle, they open up and then the hind wings come out and the beetle flies off. These are totally fused on the ground beetle, and it means that he cannot fly, obviously. And because he cannot fly, he must run and he must live on the ground. And it's very hard. A bit like a tortoise shell, which I think is quite magnificent. Right, that is going to be it from the ground beetle. Could you also please try and stay extant until tomorrow morning? That would be marvellous. He has unfortunately suffered the same fate as the other fellow. Right, we're going back to TV now. Welcome back to your live safari, everybody. My name is James Hendry. I'm sitting in the safari tent, and talking to us is the best way for you to interact on the safari. Hashtag Safari Live is the best way to do that. Out traversing the wilds of the Great Kruger National Park, Stefan Winterboer is still on foot, whispering around an elephant. Brent Leo Smith is in the final control, resting, probably playing Candy Crush, and Jamie Patterson is on her way back to Djuma from the Styx Pride. That is the end of the ad break. Good. Michael, you want to know if there's things seem more colourful under the microscope because there's some kind of colour addition. No, it's not colour addition. I think it's because of the way that this microscope is set up and the way it interprets light. Oh, this is actually quite nice. So if I put the ground beetle under again, there we are. What you can see there is the golden flecks of hair. And because the light is reflecting off the body as well as out of the microscope, I think that gives a slightly different perspective of the light. So those little spots are actually called by golden hairs. I didn't know that before. Thank you, Michael, for inspiring me to put it back on. You see that as I change the focus there? It sort of washes over the golden hair that make up the two spots of the two-spot ground beetle, who is now escaping. That's it. He's definitely got a tick on his left-hand side. He's unable to function on the left. Oh, it's quite horrible to watch. Let's put him back in there. All right. Now, I'm going to see if I can find myself a mite or two inside that bird's nest. While we do that, Stef is still with his elephant there. Just turn around, Dave. There's a woodland kingfisher. Beautiful. From there, in that direction, straight over the woodland kingfisher's head is Stef with his elephant.
We are now in an upwind position of this elephant. Finally, I tell you, it's taken us probably 45 minutes to get into a position where the wind is blowing into our faces now. And we're at a distance away from this elephant where, even from the front, he won't be able to see us unless we really jump up and down and scream and move and draw attention to ourselves. Their eyesight is at the base of their trunk and at their feet where they can pick up all their food. For him to see us, he'd have to lift his head up, and it gives them quite a aggressive posture, a head up with an elephant, and it gives them quite a funny aggressive stance, if that makes any sense at all. Definitely, as we predicted, he's moved on to these clearings where very large marula trees are growing and they have a lot of fruit, and this elephant is just taking his time. He walked quite quickly to get here. One goal in mind, the marula fruit, and he's spent probably 10 minutes or 15 minutes under this tree already. Now, Haraya, you've asked me if elephants are colorblind. Haraya, I do not believe that elephants are colorblind, no. I believe that elephants see in color. And the reason for that is that they are fruit-eating elephant. And for you to judge the ripeness of fruit, you've got to be able to judge what color it is. For you to be able to judge poisonous fruit, you've got to be able to judge what color it is. Now, yes, elephant could use smell to do that, I'm sure, and experience. But I believe that elephant see in color. I don't believe that they see in shades of gray or tones of gray as the predators would do. They have no need to have exceptional night vision to get an edge over their prey. For them, it makes much more sense to have a variety of colors that they see in, and I do think that elephants see in color. However, Haraya, I'm going to say I'm always open to learning new things, and if you can find some evidence to suggest otherwise and that elephant do actually see in tones of grey, you're welcome to send me that information using the email address questions@WildEarthTV. Now, the wind is blowing very strongly from that elephant to us, and so I have no worries about this elephant hearing us. But we are going to stay far enough in front of this elephant that even if he decides to quickly move in this direction, we'd be able to stay out of his peripheral vision and therefore stay out of his environment. This elephant at the moment, 100% unaware that there are humans watching him right now. Probably the most people that have ever watched him ever, on foot at least anyway. Alright, we're going to move back a little bit, giving a little bit of space to this elephant. We're going to send you over to Brent, who's got a bird to show you.
As you can see, the vibrating branch, the bird has departed. It was a European roller. Maybe we'll be able to catch up with him just down the road. Yes, he's landed again. Well, we are back, we are out. We are hopefully going to stay out for the remainder of the safari now. And it seems like Alex has managed to fix all our problems, hopefully, touch wood. There is that, the same bird that departed earlier. Let's see, is he going to hang around this time? Hello, European roller. have definitely come out in force in the last couple of weeks. A lot more of them around, taking advantage of all the wonderful insects that have come out with the wonderful rains. So we thought we'd try a little experiment and do roller. Noisy creatures. Beautiful bird, not such a beautiful voice. So I said I thought we'd try a little experiment and to see if we could find the chameleon we had a bit earlier again, to see exactly how good his camouflage is. Now we left him in this little bush willow. He might have decided he doesn't like this bush willow and he's departed on to other places, but let's just have a quick look in the bush willow. Last place we saw him was probably about here, Brian.
Yeah.
And he's heading down. I don't think we're going to find him again. What do you think?
It's unlikely.
Maybe he moved with round leaf teak. No. I think we were lucky. He was crossing the road. I think he has now disappeared. Okay. Well, I think you know what we're going to do for the last little while. I think we should do some birding. And it sounds like there's lots of lovely birds around. Not only the squawking of the roller. I can hear a little bird party up ahead. Now, while we were on leave, there's a massive mountain that looks over the Lowveld called Mariepskop, and it rises up to nearly 2,000 meters above sea level out of the Lowveld, and there's some fantastic birding there, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. Talking about something that rises up into the air, it seems like James is ready to take another look through the drone commander Connor Teagues' eyes. So let's go see what they've found.
We're going to give you an aerial perspective now of Stef and his elephant and perhaps a few other things from the top of Quarantine Clearings. There's the elephant. He is sitting underneath the marula tree, eating the marulas, obviously. And there, in the top of your screen, I think, is Stefan. Is that correct? Yes, must be. I think that's Stef, just gone behind the tree. Yeah, that's right. So you can see he's probably about 100 meters from the elephant. That's about 300 feet, 325 feet to be exact. Oh, it's a wonderful shot. Connor, I wonder, can we see Stef again, if you don't mind? I'm not sure that Connor can actually see Stef. I think he should appear now in front of the elephant. Keep going that direction. Just keep going round. There they are. Nowhere near where I thought they were. There you can see them on the road there. Oh, wow. Okay, so they're good. Ooh, they're probably about 150 meters, maybe 500 feet from that elephant. That shot certainly that they had earlier made it look like they were right next door. So that's the road to the fireside chat there, and the Bush Gymnasium, of course. And there you can see a wonderful perspective of Jean-Dre and Stefan and the elephant. And here's a magnificent bull. That really is what the elephant bull you want to find. And if I could have him sitting outside the tent, that would be the ultimate. There is Herbert. You can see him standing on the road. Hello, Herbie. That's beautiful. Let's go straight back down to ground level with Stef, the elephant, Herbie, and Jean-Dre.
Now, we did move away in anticipation of that drone shot that you were just looking at the moment, and that's because we didn't quite know how this elephant was going to react. He had absolutely no reaction. We were flying very high. We've moved away completely, and as you can see, he's still busy eating the marulas underneath that tree, completely content with his environment at the moment. absolutely wonderful. Full marks to this team at the moment. I must just say the extraordinary amount of skill that it's taken to get a drone in the air with us on foot and have no impact on this elephant whatsoever. It's absolutely doing what it would be doing if we weren't watching it with you, and that is what we try and do out here. That is what we try and create, the magic we try and create for you. Isn't it just absolutely incredible? Just wonderful. We've now spent close to an hour with this particular elephant at the moment, and just one of the privileges of the work that we do and of the day. And I think on this very awesome moment, we are going to say goodbye for today's bushwalk. Don't forget that I think it is a closed rehearsal this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow for the TV, at least I will, at least anyway. Have a good day wherever you are, and you're going off to Brent.
Okay, so we're going to keep looking for some birds for the last minute or two, and as Stef just mentioned, unfortunately we will be not seeing you on the Sunset Safari. It will be a closed rehearsal, but remember tomorrow, tomorrow is Monday here, but Sunday in the US of A, and remember 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a live safari on Nat.Geo Wild. Of course, all of those spread through the rest of the world. We will be where we always are, online, so you will not miss a thing. But very exciting, and I think is it halfway, Brian? It's number 4, halfway through our 8-week series. Incredible. And we've been so spoiled so far. Hopefully the spoiling continues. Who will it be tomorrow? Will the Inkahumas come back from wherever they might be? I don't even know where they are. I think they might be in the northeast, in the Manyeleti. As the last I heard, they were up around that area. Now, Karula's tracks crossed north into Buffelshoek, so there's a very good chance she'll even be back on Djuma this afternoon. So hopefully she might be around tomorrow morning. And of course, all those wonderful other creatures that are out there that might make an appearance. But from the Killer Bees, who had a relatively slow morning this morning, and of course the back at work, we'll see you bright and early for tomorrow morning's sunrise safari. Across to Jamie for the last minute.
It's been quite a peaceful morning, I feel. We had a really nice peaceful lion sighting, gorgeous little cubs suckling. And for the last few seconds of our sunrise safari, I was hoping to see Karula's cubs somewhere around this area. I have no doubt they're still here. They're somewhere here just lingering, waiting for Mom to come back and find them and call them for breakfast. I'm sure that they're still here, where she left them yesterday. But we'll just have to try again, and hopefully before this evening's TV show for you, we will be able to share a sighting with the royal family. Alright, well, on that note, it is a time for us to wrap up and say fare thee well. So a big thank you to Viam, thank you Viam, for his wonderful camera work as always, as well as to Kirsty and Rebecca in Final Control. Most importantly, the biggest thank you goes to all of you for being with us, being on the back of our vehicle, for sending through your questions and your comments. I hope you're all excited about tomorrow's TV shows. For us, it's tomorrow morning. We will catch you then, but until I see you then, have a wonderful time and a fantastic evening.